Hello, everyone, and welcome to this bonus episode of Made with Jackie Hanzl. My guest today for the second time is Jeff Cadlick, and he is a musician, songwriter, luthier, and audio engineer. And the first time we actually talked about Twin Peaks, the movie, the pilot episode. But this episode, the reason for this is because in that other interview, I had asked Jeff how he became a luthier and then never really let him answer the question because started asking him questions about the city, New York City.
Yeah.
And I never found out, and I really regretted it. So I invited him back to talk about that.
Yeah. Well,
So
thank you for having me back to get a little bit of that backstory. And I'm just as guilty as that. I've done a couple of these, and sometimes, when it's loose and you're just having a conversation, you forget like
mhm.
what some of the bullet points were. That's a pretty big one, but
Yeah.
um, I'm I'm happy to be back to do it. So thanks. So when I was working at a rehearsal studio in New York called Studio Instrument Rentals, which is a pretty popular studio, and they have them in pretty much all the major cities, and that's kind of how I got into doing some guitar work. I always kind of worked on my instruments as most guitar players do, a little bit here and there, but never really knew much about what I was doing. But when I was working at the rehearsal studio, I was around a lot of instruments, like pretty much anything you can imagine in terms of like a pop rock kind of thing, not a lot of orchestral instruments, but keyboards and guitars and drum sets and,
Hmm.
PA systems and all kinds of things. So, uh, I became friends with one of the techs there. His name's Pete Marshall, and he's like a really old school New York guy, musician. And if there's any punk rockers out there listening, he was Damien and Sam Hain, which was um, kind of a underground, like sort of punk goth band that Glenn Danzig was in before he went solo. And
Hmm.
then Pete also years later went on to play in Iggy Pop's band and did a lot of tours with Iggy Pop. So he's a pretty interesting guy and has a lot of cool experiences. Sort of one of those um, somewhat in the background sidemen musicians. He's seen a lot, but he also loves instruments and he's really knowledgeable. And he really got me into guitars like on a kind of geeky level. So he'd be always working on stuff, and we just we just became friends. So I learned a lot about setting instruments up and how they should play and what people like and just the basic ins and outs of what makes a guitar fun to play and sound really
Hmm.
good, and feel like it's an extension of yourself. So I was there for about 6 years or 7 years, but it wasn't until I moved back upstate to Saugerties that I got into doing like a little bit of my own repair work kind of on the side
Hmm.
out of my basement in my
Hmm.
house. That was around 2005, 2006, something like that. So I started doing a little bit of that, and then I started making these electronics upgrade kits for Les Paul guitars and Stratocaster guitars and Telecaster guitars, basically sort of the most popular styles of guitars that kind of everybody has
Hmm.
if you're a player. And that was just like a bunch of trial and error. And I created a little eBay store and started selling these kits on eBay, and I also sold the parts that I used to make those kits.
Hmm.
And then eventually, that became Champtone Guitars. And I, of course, made a website and put all of my stuff on my website. And for a little while there, probably like 2 years or so, I just did a lot of like online selling mostly, and local like repair work. But I was still kind of like honing my chops as like a luthier
Hmm.
to do more like intensive and advanced repair work.
Right. I have a
Um,
stupid question, maybe. When you say
no,
kits, what was in the kits
yeah,
exactly?
so that's a good question. Most people know what a Fender Stratocaster is. That's the guitar Jimi Hendrix played. Stevie Ray Vaughan played a Strat. They're most known for that. So
Hmm.
um, the part the electronics, the pots and the switch and the way they're wired and the components it used and everything, those were those were the kits that I sold, because a lot of times when you buy like an imported instrument that's like lesser quality, they almost always skimp on the electronic parts.
Mm-hmm.
So, but otherwise, the guitars are usually pretty good, and they're like nowadays they're pretty much all of them are like great guitars. It's pretty
Hmm.
amazing, and so guitar players like to fiddle around with their guitars, most of them. So you can so I sold those as like an upgrade to those lesser expensive guitars, and then even people started buying them, that had really expensive, fancy guitars as well. So that was pretty cool. And definitely, what's the word I'm looking for? It was like that had me engaged. I was meeting people, talking to people about guitars, and they were
Hmm.
interested in it. So it was fun. And I even went so far at one point to have a couple of parts, that I used in those kits. I actually had some of my own parts, prototypes made
Mm.
that
Oh,
that I
cool.
that I never put into production. I wanted to, but I was still just kind of like hand to mouth with it. So I didn't really have the capital to put down and order like, you know, 5,000 potentiometers when, I'm using three different values of those. So I'd have to buy like 15,000 pots, and, it's a lot of money, but
Yeah.
to buy all these parts, even though per piece they're relatively inexpensive. But um, so it just through that process of working on doing the upgrade kits, I started doing more guitar repair work, and then it kind of came, like, I think a lot of people in a way, like I was playing in a band at the time, and I wanted a really nice like Telecaster, and I couldn't afford like the one that or a type of Telecaster that I wanted. So I was like, well, I'll see if I can make one, and
Yeah.
and then a lot of people that have tried that, it doesn't always go so well, but
Yeah.
so uh, but I did make a Telecaster, and I used it, and it came out really nice, and a lot of people liked it.
How long did that take?
Well, I did initially what a lot of people do, and they call them like parts guitars, because you can buy like the
Hmm.
bodies and necks as
Yeah.
basically raw materials.
Yeah.
Um, and, well, they're not raw materials, but finished parts that need, they're parts. They still
The
need to be
parts. Yeah.
made into an
Yeah.
instrument.
Yeah.
Um, and I think I kind of got into like a zone where because of how I did mine and the way I put the finish on it, and just my experience working at the rehearsal studio, knowing how to really set up an instrument,
Hmm.
um, and then my like custom wiring and stuff. The guitar just sounded good. It played good, and people like that, and I mean, I still do that to this day. I have a lot of people that will bring me a guitar that they tried to make, and
Mm.
I get it, and it's all screwed up.
Right.
Like they got some things right, but mostly it's like, oh, this is barely playable.
Okay.
So it's I had a lot of experience leading up to getting into that. Um, and then I was working on a sound gig, doing live sound, and I
Mm.
ran across somebody that knew the MC of this event. Actually, was a friend with a guitar maker in Woodstock, Joe Vayette, who still makes guitars, and he's done it for a
Yeah.
very long time. Um, Knew him and told me that, oh, Joe's always looking for guys at the shop, so give him a call. And I did, and he hired me.
Oh.
So that was my first real experience, working in a guitar shop, taking
Hmm.
pieces of wood and turning them into an instrument.
Mm.
So I did different things there, but I wasn't there very long. But I did like setup work, and I did of course a lot of the wiring, and I did a lot of the wood processing, which is kind of like, you're just dimensioning wood, and getting it to the point where you can put it on a machine and turn
Cut
it
it.
into turn it into a guitar body or a guitar neck.
Hmm.
So I learned a lot there in a short period of time.
What kind of cutting? Like what? Because of the shape. What cuts it? I'm such a spaz.
Well, yeah, well, that's a good question. There's different ways to do it, but in that was, he was still making guitars like in a very old school way there, but you basically make a template, and the perimeter of your instrument, and then you'll use like an overarm router. So it's a wood cutter that follows a
Okay.
pattern, you
Okay.
know, and
Hmm.
and then but there's a number of steps to refine it and get like there's cutaways and contours and roundovers
Yeah.
and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
those are all different steps to
Mm.
making the guitar, before you put it into finish. Putting a
Right.
finish is a whole different. Like, there's a lot of guitar makers that don't even do finish work because it's a pain in the ass.
Right.
They just don't even do it. But so yeah, that was a great experience, and somewhere within that time when I was there, uh, I started working on a small run of my own guitars,
Hmm.
and I was doing it in my mom's garage. Well, actually, I made like a makeshift finish booth in my mom's
Hmm.
garage, and yeah, that was the start of it. And I made
Hmm.
five guitars, and I sold all of them, and
Hmm.
here I am. So, I'm still doing it. That was I did that first run in like 2009. I can't believe it. It's been a minute. I can't
Wow.
even. Yeah. Um,
How
was
many
that?
guitars have you made total?
Oh,
Do you
wait a
know?
minute. 2009? No, not 2009. I don't
Okay.
think I started making those until like maybe 2012, actually, now that I think of it. I was probably doing, I can't remember. I'd have to look, but it was somewhere around then,
Hmm.
2011 or something. I think it was a couple of years of me just doing general guitar work before I made any, but
Hmm.
and got the gig working for Joe. How many have I
Mm.
made? I actually haven't made that many over the years. Probably like somewhere in the neighborhood of 40 or 50,
Okay.
uh, which isn't
Not a
really
lot,
a lot,
really.
not per se. I mean, I've um, I've also worked for other people. Like Joe, like, so I don't really count
Right.
those guitar. Like,
Right.
I've made
Right.
guitars there. I don't really count those per se,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I guess I don't know what makes a guitar. Or there's some makers that do like every single thing, and then there's some that outsource some of the process.
Right.
Like, that's what I do at this point. And
Hmm.
um, so, but my own, yeah, it's about 40 guitars, and still have a handful that never really made it out into the world because
Mm.
I just I couldn't. I don't know. They just weren't ready for prime time.
Mm.
So I have some clunkers. I definitely have
Uh-huh.
some clunkers and some mistakes, for sure.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, so yeah, that's kind of, I just kind of fell into it. I didn't go to school
Yeah.
for it or anything, and
Yeah.
just being around,
Like
being a musician.
apprenticeship.
I didn't really
Kind of.
apprentice. I mean,
Well,
I kind of,
I mean, not officially, but
no,
you kind of
no.
learned from someone else
Yeah, I mean,
and kind of taught yourself.
I got on the
No.
job training and just picked up things here and
Mm-hmm.
there. Actually, after I worked for Joe, I went to work for one of his vendors where I learned the trade of finishing a guitar. Where
Mm-hmm.
mostly what he does is finish work, and there's all kinds of different finishes for instruments, just like there are with furniture. And
Right.
that was like, whoa, and it's it's a humbling experience and task. You have to have a lot of patience to finish. There are rules. You have to come up with a system for any given finish, and you have to stick to those rules because almost any time uh, you know, sway from your
Mm-hmm.
system, you have a problem.
Yeah,
So you can't rush things. It's
I can
you
imagine.
know, most finishers are like grumpy son of a bitches. So they're like carpenters. You know,
So the finishes, do you mean like matte, glossy, or shiny? Okay, like nail
Yep,
polish.
exactly. Yeah. Finish work across any kind of industry is pretty fascinating. I mean, and I mean, I can only speak expansively for guitars because I work
Right.
that's my line of work, but it can really make or break um, the instrument, because that's
Mm,
really, if you think about it, you make a beautiful guitar, and um, you know the if you can't put a nice finish on it, you're going to mess it up.
right.
And um, but with actually, this company's been doing this for decades, but you can make a guitar that didn't come out so well. You can paint it black and make it look great.
Right.
So a finish can hide a lot too.
Right.
And it's that's the first thing you're usually attracted to, right? You walk into a
Yeah.
music store and you're like, I like the way that looks,
That's so cool. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
beautiful. Yeah.
yeah. So um it's definitely a thing.
Well, why
I've
don't you
had
show? You must have a guitar by you that you've made.
I do.
Tell me.
I do. Let me let's see. You'll have to do the miracle of editing, but let me get one real quick. Oh, wait, no, wait. I
Okay.
have it here. I mean, well, I'll just let me see. I think it's all in a case and stuff, so I'm
It's
sure your
okay.
viewers would find this incredibly boring right now, but maybe not. So this guitar is for sale. I just haven't put it up for sale yet, but
Oh,
yeah. So that's why it's in a plastic bag. Uh,
I hope you be able to play it, right? For
I
us.
could probably play a thing or two, but
It's gold shiny? Are you kidding?
so
That's
this is,
gold.
yeah. So that's
Oh,
like sort of an aged shoreline gold.
wow.
That's what it's called. And I'm actually not completely done with it. I still have to make cover plates for the back.
Oh, okay.
Um, but that'll give you a little.
What color will they be? Black?
Those will be black. Yep.
Black.
Those will be black. But yeah, that's a cool. It's a metal flake gold, which you probably can't see on the camera.
I
Um,
thought I could kind of see that.
but it's
Yeah.
it's a good one. It's a very um, classic. I think it's an old Chevrolet color from the 50s.
Mm.
Yeah, they
I love that.
a lot of the companies, especially Gibson and Fender, they used a lot of the same guitar paints that auto manufacturers used.
Yeah. Kind of makes. Yeah, I could see that.
Like they just call them something cooler. Like this is called Shoreline Gold. But I think when you go to buy it at the paint store, it's called like Fawn Gold or something. So Shoreline Gold's like sexier.
Sounds. It is. Yeah. If you think of the beach.
So
But you
um,
can't play that, or could you play
oh
that?
yeah, no, it's
Or
it's
do you need the
playable.
plates on the back? Okay.
No, it's totally. I don't have it plugged in, of course, but
It's okay.
yeah, it's ready to go. This is
Cool.
actually one of the first guitars I. This is this is a pine body, sugar pine,
Mm,
so it's super light. Um,
nice. It
and
doesn't look like it's light. Like it
it's a,
doesn't
yeah,
look like it
this
is.
is my
Probably
new
just because of the
model.
color and
That
stuff.
This is my new guitar model that I really haven't gotten out there, but it's called the Champ Tone Atomic, and
Mm.
um,
And that's the shape that's like unique. Is that what you
yeah,
mean by
that's my
model or?
yeah. This is actually my first like fully conceived solid body electric guitar.
Okay.
Um, in that I mean the body shape, just everything. I mean, the neck is usually a neck, for a guitar. I mean, there are
Right.
sort of endless variations with fret size and the dimensioning of it and how it feels, but scale length is always scale length,
Hmm.
when it comes to um, having the guitar play in tune with other instruments and things. So you have your parameters that you got to stick within.
Yeah. Cool.
Um, so yeah, so
Do you have a?
that's a little finish work. So we're gonna talk about another guitar, the red guitar, the Jimmy Fallon guitar. So yeah, I'm excited to be able to talk about that because I haven't really uh, ever shared that like much on social media and stuff. Well, I guess I did, but like a post or two. Of course, it was a long
Hmm.
time ago, but here we have it on video, so uh, that's cool. So one of the first guitars I made of the first batch of five was a red Telecaster, Fender Telecaster style guitar, and I sent a picture of it just randomly one day to my buddy Cue Ball,
Hmm.
and he was like, "Wow, that's beautiful. I love that guitar." And then I think it was the next day he wrote back to me and he said, "Hey, I sent that guitar, that photo to Jimmy Fallon, and he said he wants to buy it." And I was like, "Wow, really?
I'll
Okay,
just stop you too. We all went to high school with Jimmy Fallon. He was a year ahead of us. So, and
yeah."
so Cue Ball is a very good friend of Jimmy's.
Of
Anyway,
Jimmy's,
keep going.
right? Yes, yes. And after that, it happened pretty fast. I don't know how exactly I got in contact with him or his assistant, but Jimmy did send me an email, and it was probably like two sentences or something, But he was like, "Hey, I saw the guitar you made, and I love it. I want to buy it. It reminds me of a guitar I had, when I was a kid."
Hmm.
And I thought, awesome, great, man. Thanks for reaching out, And I did write him back, but I never heard back.
Hmm.
And then from there, uh, I was contacted by his assistant at NBC. I can't remember her name right now, but she was super friendly. We just had communication via email, and um, I sent them an invoice, and they paid for the guitar, and I said, "Hey, if it's all the same, I'd like to deliver the guitar to you rather than ship it out, if that's okay."
Yeah.
And she was like, "Sure. What do you think would work for you? And we'll see what we have available. You could come down and check out the show."
Mhm.
Um, and I was like, "Great." So I told Cue Ball, and that was in like September 2013. Um, she gave us a day to come down, it was a totally beautiful fall day, like classic
Mhm.
fall New
Mm.
York City day. It was awesome.
Yeah.
We went down. We were walking around. I had the guitar, and we stopped off at like a pub, had a couple of beers and lunch, and we got down there. It was like, all right, let's go over to NBC, and so we went into the building, and his assistant met us out front. So we got kind of the world treatment. We got to
Nice.
go right in, and they gave us seats.
Yeah.
I guess like Jimmy seats or whatever for his guests, and we watched the show.
Cool.
I think I gave her the guitar, and she took it back because I didn't bring it in. But
Yeah.
the yeah, so we got to check out the show. It was the first time I'd ever seen him do it,
Hmm.
and after that, he walked through the crowd and everything, and he saw us, and I think I watched it, and he like gave us a hug, you know, and it was really fun when we were at the
Nice.
top. I remember we were all the way at the back, and so he gave us a hug, and then his assistant came around after the audience left, and then we went backstage, and we just hung out for a little while. You know, I gave him the guitar. He opened it up, and he was like, "Oh man," you know, and I remember, I'm just looking at a picture on my computer screen. He had cut his finger pretty bad.
Yes.
His ring finger on his left
Oh
hand,
my God. On his wedding ring.
his fretting hand. So
Oh.
he was like, so he couldn't even really like
Oh
strum
my
it
gosh.
or play it. He was like, oh, I wish I could play it, but my hands, I cut it, it's all messed up.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's all right, you know. And um, but he took the guitar out of the case, you know, and he was just like, oh man, this is awesome. And really, really gracious. And then he was walking around, you know, for like, we're in all the offices and NBC, and he's like carrying the guitar around, basically like it's his firstborn child in a way, you know.
That's so
He's
funny.
like, hey, my buddy
His
Jeff made,
baby.
you know, he makes guitars. He's like, I just bought this guitar from him, check it out. And he showed it to his band leader Kirk, who's the guitar player in the Roots.
Uh-huh.
So I have a picture with those guys,
That's so cool.
yeah, everybody was just really, really
Nice.
cool. And
And this was not because he's now the Tonight Show, right?
yeah,
And
that was
this was,
that
but this was the late
late night,
show?
the late night,
Late night.
or
Late night
late
with
night
Jimmy
with
Fallon.
Jimmy Fallon. Yep.
Okay.
So, yep, that was before he switched to the
Hmm.
Tonight Show.
Right.
And um, yeah, so 2013, I think that was. And so it was all kind of a whirlwind, you know.
Hmm.
I remember somebody saying, you know, I think somebody was like, "Oh yeah, Jimmy's going to meet Lorne Michaels. He's got to get on a plane and go meet Lorne Michaels in Paris."
Oh my God. Oh my
So,
gosh.
um, you know, it wasn't longer than like 30 minutes. You
Right.
know, I know it was maybe, but everybody was really cool, and you know, I
Yeah.
think he did as much as he could with the time he had.
Yeah. Nice.
So yeah, it was great, and you know, of course, we split, got back in the car, and drove home, and you know, I was on a high, and it was a great day.
Yeah.
Um, but the you know, I didn't really know what would happen with that guitar because
Right.
at the time, I'm pretty sure he had an endorsement from Gibson Guitars
Right.
because every time you'd see him, you know, obviously Gibson's one of the most, you know,
Hmm.
widely known guitar makers in, you
Yeah.
know, the history of the electric guitar.
Yeah.
So every time I'd see him on the show, he'd be playing a Gibson. And
Mm.
I didn't know that for sure if he had an endorsement or whatever, but would seem like
Yeah.
it makes sense.
Yeah.
And um, so I watched some of the shows here and there, and he always had a Gibson. You know, I was like, well,
Yeah. You're like, where's my guitar?
he probably can't play it, you know.
Yeah. Right.
And
Not allowed to.
and then like I think it was February of 2014, I randomly got a text from Cue Ball, and he said, "Hey, Jimmy's going to use your guitar on the show tonight." And I was
Wow.
like, "Wow, really?" I was like, "Holy shit, okay."
Yeah.
Um, and it turned out it was the finale of his late night run. It was the last
Okay.
night.
Yeah.
So um, this was, you know, I think I recorded it on like DVR, but you know, this was still like, you know, basically appointment television era.
Yes.
You
Yes.
know,
Yeah.
like not like now where nobody watches anything when it's live,
Live. Yeah. No.
or whatever that is. There's so few live things anymore. But yeah, I tuned in that night, you know, when it came on, and
Hmm.
they, for whatever reason, they broke the format of the show and opened it with a musical performance with Buckwheat Zydeco,
Hmm.
and Jimmy was playing the guitar and singing like a duet
Cool.
with Buckwheat Zydeco, and there was like a great stop like right at the beginning, and it was just like bam, and you could just see like the
Could see
guitar,
it.
champ tone
Hmm.
guitars was like front and center,
That's awesome.
and I was like, holy shit,
Woohoo!
you know,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
um, and he rocked it. It was great, you know, and that was like that was probably more like thrilling than like going down the show, to be honest with
Right.
you, you know.
Seeing your
So
guitar, yeah, and a
yeah,
name.
that was really fun, and um, it was a nice little moment there, and I think actually I just moved up north out of Saugerties around that time, and but I got a call from my buddy Jimmy Buff, who was working at um, WDST
WDST.
at the
Yeah.
time, and he had me on the morning show, you know, because he got word of it or whatever. So I did like a little
That's awesome.
interview,
Oh, that's
and
cool. I didn't
yeah,
know that.
yeah, it was fun. It was really nice of him to do that, and yeah, there was some stuff that popped up here and there online about it. You know,
Yeah.
there was a couple of things. I remember like a few. There's like on one of these crazy guitar forums, there's like this Telecaster guitar forum,
Uh-huh.
and somebody was like, "Oh, what's he even playing? He can't even afford a real Telecaster." He's
Oh,
like, "Yeah,
you're like, excuse
yeah."
me.
There's always, you know, it's the internet. It's full of haters.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
um, but mostly
Jealous.
it was really cool. So.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's the
I love it.
red Jimmy Fallon champ tone
Red Jimmy.
guitar, and I mean I wonder where it is because it's been so if that was February, holy crap, it's been over 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
February 2014, so I wonder where it is. I don't know.
Where is it? I think we need to make a children's book about it, right?
Yeah, right. There you go. Or we can, or maybe you can have him as your guest and be like, Jimmy, you know, I
Sure.
got this podcast I'm doing, you know, come on, help
Because
me
I
out.
talk to him all the time.
Where's,
I text him all the time.
yeah, yeah. Where's the,
He's
we
been
want to know.
dying to come on here, actually. I keep saying no.
Well, you know, he's got to wait in line like
He's
everybody
too
else.
big.
You have to know where the red guitar is. It'll be like a
Where's the red
brief.
guitar? That's all
It'll
I want to
be,
know.
yeah. It'll just be one of uh, it'll just be one of those snippets. I don't know what they're called. You know what they're called? The
Yeah.
cuts you put
Like,
for your
it would kind of be like part 3 of this whole thing. Like, you had
part
your
three,
initial
right?
interview.
It's a
This is part
trilogy.
2. It's a trilogy.
Everybody loves trilogies.
The first ones will be the longest. This one will be like medium. And then the last one will just be him saying where the red guitar is.
You're like, I don't know. It's in storage
I don't
someplace. I
know.
haven't seen it in 10 years.
Yeah. I haven't seen it since I played it for the
Yep.
late night.
Yep. Yeah. Could be. Could be.
Yeah.
I wouldn't doubt it.
Yeah. Um,
One quick
well,
thing that's
yeah. Yeah.
kind of crazy about stuff like that is that when I did work at SIR in the city, speaking of just like instruments and like musicians and you know rock stars and what have you, one of the things they had there was storage lockers. So you know people would come to the city and they would do the rounds for um, promotion on all the network shows and stuff. You know, some of
Mm-hmm.
them like to have equipment in lockers that they could have brought to the shows
Grab.
to use.
Yeah.
But since we're talking Telecasters and Telecaster style guitars, you can't think of a Tele without thinking about Keith Richards from the Rolling Stones
Okay.
because that's what he plays. But they had a locker, and I'm sure it was one of many, but I was in it a few times, and they just had a ton of equipment in there, like going back to like the 60s of old like stuff that most, you know, guitar geek people would just die for, like unopened in the box, like never touched stuff, like holy grail things, like that they
Right.
probably don't even know they had. Like just
Wow.
absurd
Wow.
levels of things in there, like that they collected.
Whoa.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
cool.
pretty cool.
Wow.
So,
All right.
yeah, there you go.
Nice. Love it. So happy you could do this. Hopefully this all recorded correctly this
I hope
time.
so. I hope so.
Speaking of guitar playing, we together will be doing an open mic coming up soon
Soon, pretty
on
soon. Yeah.
July
July
11th.
July 11th in Hudson at the Park Theater.
Yep. 7 p.m. We don't know what time we're actually going to go on, but Jeff's playing guitar. I'll be singing. My husband Dave will be playing drums, and we might have
Yeah.
a bass player.
We're
I mean,
we're
we
calling
can't.
him out right now. Brian Gotts, who runs the open mic, is a good buddy of mine. He's supposed to be playing bass with it, so I'm gonna
That's
with
right.
us. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna put him on the spot right here.
And should we say the songs or not? I feel like we shouldn't say the
That's
songs we're
up to
doing.
you.
That's up to
It's
me.
a Yeah, I'm gonna leave that up to you. We play two
Um,
well-known classics from different eras.
yes, both of women being basically jilted. I think, right? Both about women being jilted,
Sure. Well,
right?
yeah. Well, definitely
Kind
the
of.
one, but I'll just say You could do this. So you're gonna sing a Pat Benatar song and a
Yes,
Sheryl Crow song,
that's
but you
right.
don't have to say
That's
what
all
they
we're gonna
are.
say.
That's
Yes.
it. That's it.
I mean, Pat Benatar, I feel like they could figure it out, but they don't.
Well, she's got a ton of hits though. I mean, they both
She
do.
does, but
They
I don't
they
know.
do.
Well, yeah. So if you live around here, come on out and see us. Unless you hear from me again saying, please don't, because we rehearsed and it's talked about.
No, no, that's
I'm
not gonna
just
happen.
kidding. I'm
Yeah.
just kidding.
July 11th, Park
July
Theater
11th, it's
Hudson.
a Thursday.
Yeah, great spot.
That's
It's a
right.
really, really fun spot and awesome restaurants around there and the whole deal.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. All right. Well,
Okay.
thanks for coming on again
Thanks for having me.
and putting up with all this
No, there's always technical stuff.
shenanigan stuff.
We got through it. It happens.
I hope so. All right. Well, thank you everyone for listening, for watching, and hope to see you again soon.
Yeah.
Bye.
All right. Catch you later.
This is the BTRP Media Network.